Thinking of investing, working, or starting a business in the cannabis industry? We've got you covered right here on Plant Problems. Hosted by Tony Frischknecht, Plant Problems takes a different approach to cannabis than what you're seeing and hearing from the mainstream media. Come along with Tony and be in the know about how to invest, work, or start a cannabis business. Let's get the show started with your host, Tony Frischknecht.
Hey everyone, come join us today on this week's episode. I've got Flavia Hungaro, and she is in the thick of growing her cannabis business right now. We talk grow, we talk dispensaries, we talk partnerships. Flavia, what else are we discussing over our series?
Oh, we've talked about marketing strategies, which is a big thing, and also about how to figure out what strategies we should use in terms of the options that you have for locations and for retail locations.
Guys, this is going to be a great series. I'm going to do half a dozen series going through what she's in after 2 years of being involved in cannabis and where she's going. So please come join us for the episodes. Thank you. Hey, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Plant Problems. Guys that are joining me on video today, I've got a special guest with me, but I want to first share with you guys the elephant in the room. Okay, if you're looking at me on video, I actually I had a bit of an accident a couple days ago. A passion of mine is mountain biking, and 2 days ago I was just trying to enjoy a little bit more of the nice weather that we have here in Colorado and the mountains, and I ended up having a bad accident. And if you see me, my lips pretty messed up, and I've got my nose is kind of rashed up, and I've got some bumps and bruises, but I'm okay. And I really hesitated on doing video today, but guys, you know what? It is what it is, and life happens. And also, as an entrepreneur, you can't really let things like this stop you. And this podcast really means a lot to me, and I feel like I'd be doing you a disservice if I was just vain and I didn't want to show my face because I had some bumps and bruises. So for you guys that are listening out there, I've got a fat lip right in the middle of my right underneath my nose, and then I've got some scrapes across the top of my nose. So it's kind of an ugly sight, but hopefully my guest won't mind too much today, because I hope to bring her some great information that she's able to use. So now that we're done with that, I want to move into what we're going to be working on today. Today I'm starting a series of episodes with a young woman that has had her start in the cannabis industry. She needs to make some decisions on what she's going to do next. As entrepreneurs in cannabis, once you start working for the first couple months, 6 months, 12 months, into 24 months, there are a lot of balls that are in the air. You're trying to juggle different things. You're trying to make decisions. You're trying to make the right decisions. You're trying to also understand, well, where am I going to come up with the answers for financing and, a retail space or grow space. And these are all things that we go through in the cannabis industry to start off with, is like, oh my gosh, I have all these opportunities. Now where am I going to go? So today I have a special woman. She's actually, what's amazing about her is she is an immigrant from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. She came over here at the age of 18 in 2003. She didn't know English at all, earned her business administration degree at Boston University, earned a master's degree in international business, started a fitness company in 2012 called Start to Finish Fitness during the boom time in Massachusetts for fitness, became a medical marijuana caregiver, and jumped into growing after she finished school. In 2019, she created a company called Locomotion Cannabis, and I want to welcome her to the show, Flavia Hungaro. How are you doing today, Flavia?
I'm doing great. Thank you for inviting me to be on the show.
I'm so happy to have you on here, because you are in a part of the industry that is starting to explore social equity programs. And if you guys are out there and you don't understand what social equity, I've got several episodes that I talk about this. But what they are doing is certain states are creating their own programs to allow for the everyday person to try to get involved in cannabis. It's kind of leveling the playing field for people that don't have all the connections, for people that don't have all the finances that it takes to get one of these going. And this allows for a huge opportunity for you. So that's one of the big things that I want to share with you about Flavia today. She is in the process of working through her social equity program in Massachusetts. So before we get all into that, I want to allow you a few minutes here to, kind of share where you were just a couple years ago when you started this company.
So to start this business venture, I had to go through a learning process that, hasn't ended yet. But right in the beginning, just going through the requirements to pursue a license in the cannabis industry, starting number one, looking for a property where it's zoned and you can afford. And from there, going after the right team of people to work with you to accomplish the licensing process. You need to find the right attorney, the right traffic engineer. Those are all things that I was not aware of before, and I really learned as I going through the process basically, and at that point, the most challenging thing was really to find the property that was zoned, and from there. Once you find it, it doesn't mean that you have it, because sometimes the owners, the property owners, don't even want to deal with you because they don't want to. They don't understand your industry, or they just completely against the whole cannabis. So it was very challenging, and at some point I went over like at least 4 properties in the same city or town just to find a property that I could finalize a deal, for example. So that was the biggest challenge, and it's step number one, because once you find the property that is zoned, then you have to go and start communication with the city or town that you're working with, and from there start a negotiation process for the agreement.
Well, you brought up something there that I want to touch base with everyone on. I wrote a book. I'm going to show everybody on the video. So it's From Black Market to the Man, 10 Steps to Becoming a Multimillionaire. I wrote this back in 2019. And what I plan to do with you today is work through some of the steps that actually created a multi-million-dollar business for me, and some of the stuff that I think will be very valuable for you as you move forward. One of the things you touched on here, and it's a step in my book, it's step number 3, actually, if you guys are out there checking online or looking at the book, but it's professional advice. When you started stepping into the zoning side of finding land and finding a location, how did you figure out, okay, well, I need some help to do this? I didn't know where to start.
So the first thing is you need to figure out because different towns and cities, they have different zoning. For example, one of the cities that I'm working with, everything has to happen for retail, at least in the business district, or as long as considered business property, then you're okay. And then if you have to go for cultivation, then you got to go to an industrial area. Some other towns, they don't really have much specifications, so it really depends the city or town that you're willing to work with. And then you have to get basically either look for, I started looking on Craigslist, LoopNet. Those are the basic things, and besides that you can just find everything online. So really I spend a lot of time driving around, walking around, and seeing like for sale or for rent signs, and trying to talk to the owners, see if they will be willing to work, with somebody in this industry, first of all, and checking, the property zoning. And sometimes some cities and towns, they give you a map that shows, the district, or, the overlay cannabis district that they have specified that, it's according to their regulations. And that's how it started. So some of them gave me a map that I could use as a base. Some of them just told me, these are the zoning, and then I just have to go on my own and find it, because they are not going to provide that information.
Yeah, I remember we were going through this zoning scenario. They gave us a map of the city of Denver. They had little zoning areas, like you couldn't be 1,000 feet from a school. You couldn't be, from a park. It was the same thing. Basically, we had to take a quarter, put it on this map, and find our location and move that quarter. And that was the 1,000-foot distance. So if we could find a zone, we found one of the very last spots in the city of Denver. It was extremely frustrating, and we were all the way on the edge of town. Now, at the time, we thought, oh, great, we're away from everybody. Now we're not going to get any business. Fortunately, in the later part of our business, after the first year, we found that we were in an amazing spot, because we had a zone right next door to us where they didn't allow any dispensaries. So that was really cool. But had we not fallen into the last spot, we would have never found this location. And all in all, it turned out well. Going through zoning, have those issues, and you found an attorney you're working with now. Is that correct?
Yeah. So over the course of this, past couple of years, I've actually established a relationship with different attorneys. For example, one thing that I found that was very important is to maybe have two different attorneys even. One for the local level, that, he knows everybody in the city or town, so it makes communication easier at the local level. And then in addition to that, find like a cannabis specific attorney, which as of right now, I've worked with quite a few of them. So depending which, city or town that you're working with, you should, that would be my approach, using a local attorney, and then having somebody, that you can, that understands a lot about the regulations for cannabis. Because once you go for special permit hearings and things like that, the local attorney might not be, really knowledgeable about specific terminology or regulations, and that's very important, because some cities and towns, they are, it's new to everyone, not just for us as entrepreneurs getting to this new disruptive industry, but also dealing at the local level. They have a lot of concerns regarding traffic, regarding if you're doing cultivation, regarding the smell of how's that going to impact the community. And that's what they're really interested in hearing, like, how can your company bring all the benefits, tax revenues that you're saying that you can bring to the city and towns, but not, on the other hand, like, not disrupt bring negative aspects or negative outcomes to the community.
It's pretty incredible the amount of professional advice you need to get through everything on here. And I think it's hard for people to understand, oh man, I got to pay him, $100 an hour or $500 an hour to help me work my way through it. But it's extremely important, because if you go and you rent a place in a place that's not zoned for growing or zoned for retail, you're finished. I mean, that's the end of your business. So it sounds like you figured out that was really early, and you kind of had to negotiate your way through finding these people as you were finding properties, and you were finding about, okay, well, what direction is my business going to head? Why do I need the certain people that I need, right?
Mm-hmm, that's right. And that's when you start understanding that it's really necessary. So, depending where you're working,
exactly.
A good team behind you.
Well, thanks for that baseline. That helps me out a lot. I'm sure it helps the listeners kind of understand where you're coming from. So let's get into the types of opportunities that you have now. You've got some growing retail opportunities that are in front of you. And we had actually just discussed a little bit of this yesterday. I just met Flavia over LinkedIn and we started chatting, and like I mentioned at the beginning, I really liked the direction she was heading, especially understanding what is actually happening with social equity programs in these different states. So I offered my expertise to her. I'm donating my time to help her out because I love the entrepreneur attitude and I love what she's doing. So we're going to work through some stuff today. And one of them is the mass amount of opportunities that she has in front of her. So Flavia, will you share with the audience and myself, what are some of the things that you have in front of you? Just lay it all out, retail, grow, and everything else.
Yeah, so I have the capability of, those are the licenses that are available out there for retail establishment, for cultivation and manufacturing, and also deliveries. And actually, one more thing, there's also consumption cafes, which is not allowed yet in Massachusetts, but that's something that will happen soon. And that's something that I've thought about before, but I have to understand a little bit more. And they're not even, it's going to take a while for that to happen. So I don't want to be ahead of myself right now. But so at first I decided to start with cultivation. And that's, the very first thing that I decided to start. And then as as I having more progress, I decided to go also at the same time look for retail establishments. And the reason why I decided that way is because retail is usually capped depending on the amount of liquor stores that each city or town have it. So that's how they manage to make up the exact number of retail establishments for cannabis. And once I started seeing that those were being taken at a fast rate, because once those are gone, there's no way anybody else can get anymore. So I was like, I think I'm gonna focus my time on looking for retail establishments, and that's I decided to do. And unfortunately, I had to put my cultivation plan a little bit on the back burner so I could focus more on the retails. And I was fortunate enough, and so as of right now, I have 2 retail licenses at the provisional level with the Cannabis Control Commission in Massachusetts. And it's it's been a long road, but as of right now, we are what that means, having a provisional licenses that we are actually able to start construction. So I'm hoping that for those licenses that I'll be able to have at least one, if not both of them, operational by, let's say, I was hoping a few weeks ago to be in December, but, change. You can't really plan ahead that much, but hoping to be in the early first quarter, let's say, of 2021. And then I also have a cultivation application in, which is at the state review level. And that's the third agreement that I've had established with a city. And besides that, there's another cultivation that I have also that it's just the initial permit, which is the host community agreement. So once you find that property and you see that it's zoned properly and you made an agreement with the owner, then you can go ahead and go for a host community agreement. That's what's called in Massachusetts. I'm sure that there are different names out there for depending where you are. But and that means that you're agreeing to pay a certain amount of taxes and follow certain regulations that the city has established. So once you agree to that, then you can move on and start your process.
So is that agreed to you by yourself and the landlord, or yourself?
No, the whole security agreement between my company and the city or town that I'll be.
So you're agreeing, like, for round numbers' sake, we'll say, yes, we're gonna be paying $1,000 per month for the next 12 months. Just some kind of an average is what they're doing. Is that how it works?
Usually the numbers are like 3% of your sales, and also the impact fee that it could be up to 3%. Usually, everybody goes for the maximum amount, and besides that, you can do additional donations, which is the city has created a plan, a community impact plan, so you can help communities or nonprofits that you feel like your company is willing to provide them funding to help them somehow, right?
Does Locomotion Cannabis Company, is there a tax on you for being for taking advantage of the social equity program? Are you paying back into the system in any way?
Well, it's the same way as any other company. We agree to the same percentage with every city that we go as any other like regular company. Instead of even if you're not a social equity, you still pay the same amount.
Okay, so there's no difference. There's not a hike because I've looked at other social equity programs, and they instate a higher tax so that they're able to get some of the value of the program. Like, for example, some states they're allowing for reduced licensing costs, and in turn they're taking that extra tax to pay back into the social equity program so other people can have a chance.
So at the state level, they have reduced the cost of the fees that you have to pay for a license. There's some other benefits that they gave to social equity participants. But at the local level, not that I have experienced, there's no exception to the tax agreement they create with the city or town, because that's how they make their money anyway. So it kind of like puts you in a disadvantage if they would do that for you. But at the state level, they do reduce some of the fees.
That's good, and that's one of the benefits that these programs allow for. But yeah, there's multiple things, and again, depends on the state. Obviously, Boston or Massachusetts has their stuff in line already, but if you go to LA or something, you might find some different regulations for this program. Hey everyone, thank you so much for listening to Plant Problems today. Please come back with us next week as we look into a deeper dive with the opportunities that Flavia has coming for her, and we look forward to digging in deeper. So if you guys have any questions, please reach out to me at plantproblem.com, and I hope you come join us next week for second in the series of 8. So thank you so much, and I'll see you next week.
You've just listened to another insightful episode of Plant Problems. If you like what you heard so far, don't forget to tell your friends and colleagues. For additional resources or to leave a review, head over to plantproblem.com. Join us again next week on Plant Problems with Tony Frischknecht. We look forward to having conversations with you as we go along this journey.